Today we have the new Vosteed Gator thumb hole and Gator thumb stud with the scoop in the blade. They're a little bit different as far as you have a higher flat grind on the thumb hole version, and on the Gator, if you want to, you can remove this thumb stud and they have like a little smaller cap if you don't want the thumb stud on there, or you can just remove it altogether and have a smaller hole, but it is a chamfered hole. This knife is coming in at $69, and I think it's an outstanding value. Your total length on this bad boy, this is a biggin, coming in at 9¼ inches long. We're going to set this one aside because this is the one that I did the testing for, but they're very, very similar. You have a blade length of 3.96 inches and a cutting edge of 3.96 inches because it goes all the way to the back. Outstanding. Almost a 4-inch blade. Now, if you measure the blade from here to there, it'd be 4 inches, but if you measure it from the front right here to the front, it would be a little shy of 4 inches. You have a nice thin point right there for doing precision cutting, utility work, excellent drag cuts. Love that. Nice top swedge up here. This one has a satin finish on the blade. You have a pretty long row of fine cut jimping that is nice and functional. It could have been a little bit longer for the choke up, but I could still get a little bit underneath my finger. But I don't really see the need for the jimping. You have a good sharpening tool that clears that plunge line. It comes right here, so you should have a few sharpenings before it starts to widen up. And you have a internal stop pin, so if you needed to adjust that, widen it up, you could do that yourself. The blade steel on this one is 14C28N, excellent stainless steel, great budget steel that gets extremely sharp. And this particular one has like a slicer grind like Rick Hinder does, where it goes all the way up. It gradually goes up to all the way to the tip, so it's going to get thinner up in this portion. And the behind the edge thickness on this particular knife is around 13 to 14 thousandths behind the edge. Very nicely done, especially because this has a 0.14 inch blade stock, so it's a little thicker than I'd want to see, but for a big knife like this, that totally makes sense. The scale thickness on this one is 0.59, so it's really going to fill out the hand nicely. And you have a very big grip area. If you want to go from here to the back right here, it's 4.2 inches. And if you choke up all the way up here, it's 5.1 inches. So tons of room for your large, extra large hands. Very nice. Now to the fun part. First off, I'd like to say that this knife was one of the sharpest knives out of box that I've gotten in a really long time, especially at the $69 price point. So I decided to cut up a lot more cardboard than I normally do, 2 much bigger pieces, so basically 3 times the amount I normally do. I had to speed it up because I didn't want it to take a really long time, so sorry if it's hurting your eyes if it's flashing so fast, but man, was this thing slicing very well, and it had me excited to test the rest of it. I always love whenever I not only am testing the knife and it's sharp, but it has bite as well. Now we move on to test the ergos and how that edge wants to bite into this piece of birch. And right away I noticed that when doing this type of stuff, choking up is the most comfortable spot, especially if you want to get power behind your cut. That fairly straight drop point edge, or whatever type of blade shape you want to call it, is a very powerful blade. Not to mention you have a very long blade, so I was trying to do very fine cuts, but it was biting into the wood really quick. But I increased the pressure. It was pretty darn comfortable, especially for a flat handled scale knife. Of course, the texture from the Frag, it was a little uncomfortable, nothing to where I was, saying ow, but definitely was taking chunks into the wood. This is where the knife really excelled, on this flat surface, doing utility style cuts, using that tip for drag cuts, because it's nice and thin, nice and sharp, and at this point I'm kind of amazed on how well it's passing through all the materials. It kind of shocked me, to say the least. This stuff just didn't even feel like anything was there. Not having to put a whole bunch of force into any of this material. And the edge just felt like it kept going and going. Just watch this. This denim Usually will wreck a 14C 28N edge, but no, not this one. Nice and clean cuts, very easy. And when using that front portion, we're going to test this at the end, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's still great. And we go to the 1/2-inch twisted sisal rope. Look at this. Before I speed it up, look at this. It was so easy. Now you have mass behind that, you know, that wider blade, so it's a lot easier to push down. So I'm using very minimal force, but just look how fast, even when I sped it up, it is just blasting through this, and all the way till I run out of the rope, it still felt really sharp up there in the front. It was cutting it just the same. And I think we end up getting through 60 cuts before I run out of the rope. And I promise you, I could have done way more. And plus, you have a much bigger edge there. So, you know, even when that dulls out, you still have a lot of edge left to use. I'll definitely be excited to check this edge, see how good it still is. But if I had to take a wild guess, I'd say it's still pretty darn good. Got to check out this edge because it still feels great. Let's see. Oh my goodness. And I cut a lot more cardboard than I normally do with this. Ooh, if I strap this up, it's going to be, let's see. It feels like it would shave hair still. Hopefully y'all can see that. Yeah, it's still shaving hair, especially up there in the front. Hopefully y'all can see it. Now it's not as clean, you know, as it was before, but it was ridiculously sharp before. And that's the beauty of 14C. It drops up so easily and it gets so stupid sharp. Now, let's close it up and take a look at the action. You have a multi-deploying knife. You have a thumb hole, front flipper, traditional flipper. Excellent access to the thumb hole, so you can do thumb flick, thumb roll, reverse flick really easily. Then that front flipper, you can do the reach around. You could do the regular front flip. That minimal flipper tab, but they have nice grippy jimping on there that makes it nice and easy, and it comes out with authority because it's on multi-row bearings. That's why it's complete drop shut knife, partly because of the heavier blade, but also because of those multi-row cage ceramic bearings. The thumb stud action is nice on this one as well, and this one is kind of curved in this portion, so it makes it a little bit easier to do the front flipper, at least for me. But it makes it a little bit harder to do the reach around, but it's such a big blade. But same excellent traditional flipper in the back right there with that grippy jimping as well. You can easily slow roll this one. Nicely done. And this one also has a nice drop shut action. Now let's take a look at the handle area. You have a Torx T8 for the pivot on this side. You have nice pivot collars to give it a nice little pop of color, extra color. Now, the only thing that I don't really love is they have T6 hardware for the body screws and the clip screws, but at the $69 price point, I can look past that. They're done well. They're countersunk. You have a plate for the reversible side pocket clip, very nicely done. And this one has this nice blue frag pattern, and it gives you good traction while not being too overly aggressive. Like on the grind, I thought it was a little bit aggressive, but I think they went it a little bit shallower on this one, and it has a cool look to it. It has like a greenish yellow color in the blue. I don't know if that's the fabric underneath or what, but I think it looks nice and it feels good in hand. Same with the black. You can kind of see the black come out a little bit more, and they did a good job of putting a chamfer on the outside of the frag pattern so you don't have a sharp edge or hard edge like you would, say, if you were coming with contoured frag or something like that. You have flow-through construction, 2 standoffs in the back right there, internal stop pin like I said earlier. You have as much weight relieving as you can on the top and bottom to try to save on weight. But this is a big knife, so it's not going to be a lightweight for sure. First in grams at in ounces, 6.21 ounces. So let's see if this one's any lighter. Coming in at 6. Actually, that one's heavier. That extra weight has to be the extra thickness you have on this one because of the lower grind. But I will say it feels light in the hand because the balance point is done perfectly right there where you'd want it to be in that forward, that first choil in the handle scales. The lockup on this particular knife is sitting at around, I'd say 30% or so. Hopefully you can see that. Bank vault, no side to side, no up and down whatsoever. And we'll check this one out as well. This one also at around 30%. Bank vault, no side to side, no up and down. The access to the lock bar is good because of the cutout right here on the show side scale. Plus they have a little bit of texture. Easily I can get my finger in there, no problem whatsoever. At this price range, I don't really have anything this size, but we have the Cold Steel Recon 1 that is a little bit shorter in overall length. You have the Ontario Wrap Model 1 that's dwarfed. And this is about the only thing that I have is bigger that's close to the same price as the Cold Steel 4 Max Scout. Even the Kaiser XL Sheepdog smaller by just a hair. Nitpicking complaints, all I have is a couple of nitpicks. Maybe extend the fine cut jimping out a little bit further for, doing choke up. But it's not something that really bothers me any. Only thing that I really would have liked to see is a flat spot on the frag pattern underneath the pocket clip, because that could become a pocket destroyer. It's not, like I said, not as bad as the grind was, but definitely something to note. But other than that, I absolutely love this knife. If you're looking for a super slicer, pretty much a 4-inch blade, excellent budget steel, beautiful price. I mean, it's a no-brainer. Outstanding action, multi-deploying, fidgety, comfortable in hand. What's there not to love? It checks all the boxes. And, I know some people don't like the fact that it's such a big knife and it's going to be a little bit heavier. But I tell you what, I carried this thing for almost a solid week last week. And I absolutely loved it because I was breaking down a bunch of cardboard boxes. And this thing is a slicing machine. And did you see how great that edge? This is one of the best edges that I've had after my testing on a knife at this price point. We don't have many big budget knives like this at the $69 price point, especially none that do this well. So, do I recommend it? Yes, and oh yes. Now, if you want one, you're not looking for a super slicer, and you want one to be a little bit tougher, then go with this one, this blade shape. You have a little bit thicker of a grind. Now, it's still, look, you can look down there, it's still pretty darn thin there, but it'll give you a little bit more thickness there. Same awesome knife, depending on which action type you like as far as the thumb deployment, you can still reverse flick it, or which blade shape you prefer. Excellent knives. I will have a link down in the description that helps support the channel. If you want to do that, you don't have to. And there you go. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, please leave them down below. I hope everybody's having an absolute amazing day. I will see y'all on the next one. Gator, peace.